be.
No, not really.
Do they?
No, not really.
So, are you DTFF?
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
All right, welcome back to the show, folks. We've got another great episode here for you this evening. We are talking NFC East Divisional breakdown here, and we have got just the who's who of a lineup here. I'm going to start with my co-host because why wouldn't I?
Because I'm the whoosiest of the who's.
That's right.
Appreciate
Jake,
that.
how are you doing?
I am doing superb, sir. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. Glad to be here after a subpar day of work. So nothing better than having some laughs and talking football, huh?
Now we can have a not subpar episode of this podcast.
That's right. That's right. And then our first guest here I will introduce is Steffie Smalls. Hey, Steffi, how are you doing?
I'm so excited for you guys to be in the middle of my sandwich. I have 3 shows tonight, and this is just the meat of it all.
Ooh,
That's right.
The meat.
Yeah. You like that one, Shane, don't you? I know you like that one. I've been playing
Or with
that
the
one just for you.
stuffing in the middle of the Oreo too, however we look at it.
Then we also have on the show, returning to the show, Shane Manila. Shane, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm on air with one of the only 2 people that's ever made me blush during a live stream or podcast. So that's going to be fun. Yeah.
Jake, I'm curious to know what you did to make him blush.
I'll never tell.
It was a dick pic. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a dick pic. And I don't mind
Come on,
when
man.
those come from guys. Now, it is weird when girls send me dick pics because I'm like, is this your boyfriend's? Is this some randos that sent it to you? Or is it yours? Are you a hermaphrodite? Which I'm not judging because if you are, fine. But it's just not my thing.
We are less than 3 minutes in, and we've already gotten so many strange dick references at this point. I think it can only go down from here, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's what happens when you talk about dick. You go down.
Yeah. All right. So get this back on the tracks here while we still can. As I said, we'll be talking the NFC East this evening, but got a couple of things to take care of here before we get into that. We have our beer review that we do here on the show. We'll start with us because we're the hosts. So we have a beer here by Blackstreet Brewing out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and it's called Are You There, God? It's Me Tangerine, which I was really excited about the name, so that's why I bought it. And it literally looks like orange juice in a cup. So,
Did you roll it beforehand like the can said to?
No, I didn't. I was just too excited to drink it.
Uh-oh. You're gonna. So this can, it said on an advance, it says you are supposed to roll before consuming. And I've never had a beer tell me to do anything like that before. So I'm kind of interested and excited. It also makes me think there might be some weird shit at play in the can itself. So I don't know. But it's vanilla and tangerine beer.
Shake it up first. Shake it up and then drink it.
Give it
No,
That's what I
hard.
do.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Right in the face.
In the face. This is good. It
tastes like orange juice. I literally think they put orange juice in a beer can and then charge $9 for it.
No, it tastes like a creamsicle. You know those ice cream pops that have like the vanilla ice cream in the middle, but it's like an orange popsicle on the outside? That's what I'm going with here.
Yeah.
Now you folks don't have creamsicles, unfortunately. Sorry, Dustin. Really, we should just start sending our guest beer ahead of time.
Yeah, like what?
We really should.
Half-ass,
Spare
unorganized,
me. I
not
will be
professional
okay.
shit is this? Like, we don't get to taste the beer. You're just tasting it in front of us. Like, oh no, this is really good.
I can
No,
describe it to you for like another
Really
10
good.
minutes if that helps in any way.
I can only be so organized here. I got a show sheet together. That's about the limit of my responsibilities.
It sounds like Jake needs to pick up some slack. Maybe he needs to handle like the creamsicle portion of this.
Yeah, I'll put that on my to-do list, is to be the creamsicle guy going forward.
So either of you enjoying a beverage during the show?
Steph,
And what?
Please.
Steph, are you drinking?
I would never. I'm having a White Claw. Very as usual. We like to stay on brand here at Steffi Studios, so that's what I'll be enjoying. I'm very excited about the new Surge claws, though. I got tagged at least 200 times. Tonight, I'm going to tag. I mean, not tag. Count how many times I got tagged. It has to be almost at 70. That's my guess. It's actually out of control. I need help, I think.
Has anybody ever been more associated with one particular brand? Like, I don't know if Michael Jordan is more associated with Nike or if you're more associated with White Claw at this point.
Yeah. I think it comes down to numbers, like how big Jordan is. So, like, I'm a little bit smaller of a fish than Michael Jordan, but maybe one day.
It's fair.
Okay.
It's fair.
That's fair.
What about you, Shane? What's going on over there in your box?
I'm just drinking Jack and Coke. Well, actually, Pepsi and Coke, because I didn't. No, wait, Pepsi and Jack. Pepsi and Jack, because Pepsi and Coke would just be fucking weird. Pepsi
It's a lot of
and Jack.
trouble to go through, honestly,
Yeah.
if you're mixing Pepsi and Coke.
Yeah, then you got issues. Just Jack and Coke, my usual. It's an old man drink that I've been drinking since I was like 14, so I'm going to stick with it.
Stick with what got you there.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then
Jake,
I'm on some antidepressants that always make me feel better. So there's that too. I find it's best to mix those with alcohol.
Usually.
That's just my medical opinion. So anyone listening, that's my.
He's
medical
a doctor. Is not a doctor. I repeat.
But he did say it in a Holiday Inn Express last night. So,
Boom. That is a deep pull reference.
Oh.
And I'm excited for the 13 people out there that get it, Dustin. quite
Yeah,
frankly.
Steph has no idea what the hell he's talking about there. She's like, wow, that's.
It's just getting weirder as it goes, and it's okay because you guys are the meat in my sandwich. And I'm just gonna let it rock.
Yep. Nope. Definitely nothing weird about what followed that statement. Dustin, do we want to get into our drunk trade of the week? I don't want to waste too much of time up front. I feel like we have real things to get into with
let's get in.
these wonderful
Real
people
things?
here.
I was
Yes.
weird thinking.
We got
Sorry.
football stuff. Steph,
Oh yeah, that
Let-
stuff.
let me ask you, how do you feel about the Giants adding Kyle Rudolph?
I don't think it's a big deal. Are you in charge of the show? Like, am I
No.
supposed to respond right now?
Really?
I don't think it's who cares? It's a red zone threat. He's gonna do what his purpose is. He's a good blocker. Who cares? I think that's not a bad ad. Everyone wants to cry and whine about things like that. Just get over it. It's not a big deal. He's a red zone threat. He's not gonna do it's just gonna be Kyle Rudolph on the Giants. You can't get more win than Kyle, right? How much more? Jason Garrett could not have had more amnesia thinking he's in Dallas. Here you go. There's your Witten. You want Witten? This is the closest thing you're going to get. So you better do something good with him.
So here's the thing, though. I know you hate Evan Ingram because he drops things a lot. A lot. That's like his thing, right? That's kind of like, oh, I'm Evan Ingram's doink. So will you be happy when Evan Ingram is not on the field, but Kyle Rudolph is? Because that's like oh, really?
No, they'll both be on the field. It's going to be very 12 personnel friendly over there.
Very
in
12
New
personnel.
York.
Okay.
Can I make a petition to call Evan Ingram Evan Doinks from here on out? Is that
I
acceptable?
think
Does
that
the motion
is a
pass?
fantastic idea.
Okay. Evan
Motion
Doinks it
carried.
is. However, we are not talking about Evan Doinks just yet. Let's get into our drunk trade of the week very quickly here. This week's, it comes from @HC Smooth with an E. So we were talking beforehand, before we got on the show, about English people and kind of, I don't know, terminology. If there's an E on the end of a word, I assume that it's British. Is that fair? So smooth, it would be HC Smooth, but like in a British accent is how I'm choosing to read that. Anyways, they say made this last week a tad tipsy to acquire J-Rob. So ahead of time, they're trying to get out of the gate. They were only a tad tipsy here.
Can you read
Self-proclamation.
Can you read that again? I'm sorry.
I sure
Started playing
can.
on my phone.
They say made this last week a tad tipsy to acquire J-Rob. So self-proclamation, only a tad tipsy. They received James Robinson. They got a 2021 105 and a 2022 205. Wait, that can't be right. I think they're both 2021 picks. Yes, all that. But they sent away Christian McCaffrey.
No,
they sent away a 2022 second and a 2021 fourth.
Listen, dipshit. When you're trading CMC, right? And I get that trading McCaffrey. Is this super flex? Did we touch on
it?
It
is Dynasty 12-team super flex. A great question.
Okay. Well, it's what I do. I ask questions. I probe. I like to poke things. So when you're trading away Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry, you need to get top 7 player at their position. And I like James Robinson. He's not even top 7 running back from his class last year. He's like 7. He's probably 6. That's probably mean, but not enough for me. 105. I mean, Zach Wilson. Not doing it for me. Zach Wilson. Just list out who you're getting. Zach Wilson, James Robinson, some random ass second rounder with a hit rate of around 20% if you're lucky for Christian fucking McCaffrey, who scores 30 points a game when he's on the field. Not great, Bob. Not great.
Not great at all. And the tad tipsy part really gets. I felt he needed to say he was ball ass drunk for this trade. But Steffi, are you on that same train, or are you thinking that this is somewhat reasonable?
Like, I don't like one. Like, you should like probably see a therapist, because I feel like making these trades like intoxicated is like a sign of toxicity. Probably like there's something going on in your head. But I don't think it's horrible. I can get behind it if I needed one more thing. Needed like a little bit more. Give me like, I don't know who else. Give me another like a wide receiver 2 or some bullshit. It's a little, you got a little low ball there, but I don't hate it.
Throw Tyler Boyd onto the receiving end. Does that get it done? Is that even now if Tyler Boyd's there?
I don't know. I need something more. I need a little bit more. And you should never poke things without consent, Shane.
No. I only poke things with consent. I get written NDAs first, kind of like Watson.
That's good.
You're signing this. Yeah.
Dustin, are you poking at this trade with a negative stick or a positive stick?
I'm hitting it hard with the negative stick. I think you can get way more for CMC than just James Robinson. I mean, essentially it's James. I mean, 2 firsts, you should be able to get at least 3 for CMC. So
and that's another way to look at it. Like, this feels like you can't justify this trade being drunk. You need to have at least been tweaking on meth or
well, if he was tipsy, yes, it's like
accidentally snorted crack. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. Because obviously you're out of your mind, but just drunk is not an excuse. Like, this sounds like he would yell at me a lot. Like, he's the type of dude, he would yell at me, right? And then the next day he wants to call me and be like, dude, I didn't mean any of that. And I'm like, you had 2 Trulies. Like, really? You were that hammered off 2 Trulies that you just let loose on me like that? Like, no. So bad trade. Anyway, back.
He goes to a karaoke bar and sings the most passive aggressive song in your face.
Right.
After a couple let's say, I don't know, Jaeger, not even Jaeger shots.
No,
I would say
fireball.
like a Rumplemintz in
there
your
you go,
face.
fireball.
Yeah.
And then he just keeps telling you.
And then he sings before he cheats and he screams it in your face.
And he's like, oh, well, I haven't eaten all day. So, if I get drunk, it's because I haven't eaten anything. Like, this sounds like this was some pre-planned, you just want to yell at me about some things type of deal. But anyway, not a good trade.
So none of us, Steffi, you're the most lenient, I think, out of all of us on this trade. I would say my final piece here is just James Robinson. I have nothing against him, but he's an undrafted running back. I'm not like super worried about Carlos Hyde necessarily, but the guy got like 95% of his backfield touches last year. That's not happening ever again for that guy. So, I mean, enjoy your like high-end running back 2 production, which he'll get for you this year probably. And that's it. And CMC will be sitting at 1 or 2 pretty much guaranteed. So Too bad, HC Smoothie. That is not one I don't think any of us heard.
Not so smooth there, Mr. Smoothie.
But also, he's British, so it's like morning time. So top of the morning to you. That's how the British sound.
It's 100% not accurate, but I loved the enthusiasm.
That's how British people sound. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. Before we head into the meat, Dustin, I'm just going to do our quick ad read and then kick it over.
Mhm.
This week's episode is brought to you by Monkey Knife Fight. MonkeyKnifeFight.com. Head over there now. You're bored. The NFL is not here. The draft is still not here. But they have other sports that you can partake in. You have other, over-unders, etc. that you can make there. And the good news is that when you sign up using promo code DTFF, they will match your initial deposit up to $50. Go to monkeyknifefight.com. Just do it.
All right. Thank you, Jake. On to the meat of the episode here. So we are going to start with the Washington football team. Why Washington? Because that's what I decided when I made up the show sheet. So
neutral ground, man. Neutral.
I was just about to say, it's very neutral, very, very smart to start that way. Things won't get too heated.
No one,
right.
no one cares. Like even Washington fans don't care.
Oh, they care.
Oh, they care. So we
See.
go over some of the free agent moves for the team here. So we had notable losses, and I will use the word notable in quotes here. It's Robert Foster, Jeremy Sprinkle, Alex Smith, and Thaddeus Moss. And their notable additions is Curtis Samuel, Ryan Fitzmagic himself, Lamar Miller, and Adam Humphries. So any of these moves for Washington, does that move the needle for you at all? Make you excited about prospects for any of the fantasy relevant players?
Shane, you go, you Mr. Opinionated you.
Are we going with Dallas yet? No, I mean, I think it's nice that Terry McLaurin actually has a competent quarterback for the first time in his career. So that's going to be fun to watch. Other than that, who cares? I mean, Curtis Samuel is going to be an okay wide receiver 3, right? Wide receiver 2, maybe some weeks. I don't care. So yeah, no, it's great for Terry McLaurin. Like, a lot of us are buying into Terry McLaurin. Like, we think he's got wide receiver 1 upside because of what he's done with Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith, whose ADOT was actually 3 inches. Yeah, it's like this. I don't know. I'm not good with inches. Anyway.
I can finally exceed something, which is very exciting, though, for me.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I'm happy for Terry McLaurin. I think that's going to be great. Logan Thomas, I like him having a quarterback. Also good.
Well, we like players having a quarterback. Great.
Yeah.
That is a great
Mm-hmm.
analysis.
Yeah.
Big fans.
Yeah, big fans of quarterbacks that are good, that are not even good, that are just better than trash cans, which they had last year. So, wheels up on Terry McLaurin if you're a Terry McLaurin guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be.
That's all I got. I got nothing else.
So my concern here is I don't like that Fitzpatrick has not played a full season since 2015. Not a big fan. I think this is great for right now. Yes, we're so excited about Terry McLaurin. And McLaurin will be fine whether Fitz finishes the year or not. I just, and I love Fitzmagic and I love everything that he can do, but he's one of those guys. He's just not a 4-quarter quarterback. He's not a full season quarterback. He's known for the magic, and the magic is not playing 16 games, especially 17. So yes, I'm definitely a little bit nervous about that scenario. I own McLaurin in almost all of my 17,000 leagues. So it's cool. It's dope. It's going to be sick for him throwing the deep ball, and we're all going to love it and go wild. But I'm very hesitant about this move. Like, it does not make me very happy with their backup options for Fitz.
See, I'm excited. I'm excited for Fitzpatrick this year.
I'm excited. I'm allowed to be nervous. I have an anxiety disorder. Okay, Jake? I'm nervous.
You are allowed to be nervous about Fitzpatrick starting all the games, I think, because that is a true thing. Like, it hasn't happened. I will say, last year, he looked like he could have started all 16. Now 17, I guess. It's like he had one of the higher completion percentages of a career, higher yards per attempt of his career. Like, he was actually doing more than he's done historically. So, which is what makes me excited for McLaurin. It's kind of what makes me excited for Curtis Samuel too. I think both of them. It's just whoever his preference is. They're the ones who's going to eat probably. And I think the other guy is going to be left out of the equation. That's why I'm not super high on McLaurin myself. Because just for me, it's one of those things. If he has a preference for Samuel all of a sudden, who we know can go deep, he just wasn't used that way the last year or so in Carolina. He was transitioned in this weird short range guy, but he can go deep. So if that's the connection, then I don't know. I guess I'm taking the lower cost acquisition at this point.
So you take Curtis Samuel over Terry McLaurin?
At ADP, probably.
For redraft?
Yeah, for redraft.
Okay.
For Dynasty, 100% still Terry McLaurin.
I still wouldn't do that. And I haven't even looked at the ADP, and I don't even
Why
care.
are my lights going?
No.
Steph, you got to pay the bills. Stop buying claws and pay the electric.
Oh my
Like,
god.
electric.
Also, if we are live broadcasting a horror movie right now without knowing it, I think that we should all be on high alert.
God, this is so it's because everything got messed up from Columbia. I like just switched my monitors up and stuff and tried to bring everything, whatever. All right. I don't know. Shane complained about something.
Oh, I haven't eaten yet. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see who eats next year. Yeah, I think there's also a lot of talented, like the skill players over there. Like you have no idea what's going to end up happening, and I think there's a lot of talent to be shared. So Fitz might find his guy, and it might not be the guy that we all wanted him to find.
Well, it's going to be McLaurin. It's going to be McLaurin.
You will it into existence.
I mean, I hope so. My shares would love that. They're wet thinking about it. So yeah, I'm down.
It is much more likely that it's McLaurin. I mean, to be clear, it's way more likely. I'm just saying that off chance still has me a little nervous.
I got to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't recall what Fitz's passing rate is to running backs off the top of my head. So I don't know how I feel about that for Gibson. Although Gibson was used so wrong last year that he almost has to see more passes just by accident. But no, that's a good signing. That was the best signing for them. Look, it gives all those guys at least value for another year. And like I said, McLaurin, he was good with trash cans. So now he has like whatever the step above a trash can is. I don't know, a hamper at quarterback. So no, that'd be below. That'd be below.
Oh, shit. I got to learn that hierarchy, man.
So that's a good enough for Washington. No one cares about Washington.
Well, Shane, you kind of brought it up a little bit. I was going to ask about Gibson, and we all expected him to be the big pass catcher last year, and obviously J.D. McKissick, what was the pass catching fiend on that team, and I don't know if you guys have heard anything of why that was the case, because that's what he was known for coming out of the draft last year. But we saw him basically in that 2-down role. Do you think he just wasn't good at pass pro, and that's why he wasn't out there on passing downs, or is J.D. McKissick just that much better as a pass catcher? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think you're going to see more pass receiving work out of him this season?
You almost can't see less. And honestly, if we're going to be honest with one another, which I think we should while we're drinking, that was J.D. McKissick is one of those examples of a head coach trying to show you how smart he is. Like, no. I could beat you with the superior player, with the superior skill set at this specific task. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this jag and I'm going to throw him the ball a lot because that shows that I'm smart because I'm using a player that's not as good. That's an NFL coaching thing. That's just what they do. They want to show you how smart they are. I hope to God that isn't the case this year. We have no reason to think that it won't be, though. That's the problem, right? Nothing's changed, literally, except for the quarterback. Quarterback's not calling plays. So there's a little room for concern, but hopefully it was just maybe he wasn't great at pass pro because he's really a wide receiver and he just learned how to play running back in the last couple of years. So, yeah, maybe he's picking up some pass pro and they'll have him on the field and use him as a pass catcher on third downs, see what it's like to use a wide receiver in that role. Steph, your turn.
Okay.
Oh, is it my turn? Okay. I still am not off of the McKissick. I think that it could very much be a situation where we see him and Curtis Samuel getting the same amount of targets, or one being a higher targeted guy than the other. I'm not going to be picking him up in redraft, that's for sure. Like, if I already am stuck with him, cool, that's dope. Like, we'll play him as is, but I don't know that I'm like picking him up in a redraft situation.
I just want JD McKissick to go away, and that's nothing against him as a person, as a human being. JD, I'm sure you are wonderful.
No,
God
he is
damn
a
it.
You're even
scumbag.
that. Like,
He is a jerk off. I mean,
I actually
he's
hope
a
that's
terrible
true.
human being.
I hope that's true because it would make me feel a lot better about my internal wishes right now for him, just from a fantasy standpoint about him going away to someplace very far and not returning. Because if he's a good guy, that would actually, make me feel a little bad. But whatever.
All right, then one last thing about Washington, then we'll move on, I swear.
Oh my God.
I know, I just can't help it. So we've seen, or I've seen
Psych,
some
by
of
the way, guys, this is an entire Washington podcast. We're not moving on from the rest of
we've been punked. Where's Ashton?
Guys, Antonio Gandy Golden. What do we think about him in year 2?
Well, that is a good question, but no, I've seen Mac Jones mocked to Washington. Think he'll make it that far to them at 19, or and do you think he'll be a good fit for him?
Can I go first this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Okay, so here's my thing with Washington. I think that Fitz was a bad move for them because I think that Washington is in a position to be successful and very successful. And I think Fitz is great, but here's the thing. You take Fitz, you do pretty well. You could go pretty far. You kind of screwed your draft position for next year with this. So my idea for them was to take someone like Winston or to trade up in the draft and grab your guy because you're ready for your guy. Now is the time. So what the hell are you guys going to do when you screw your draft position for next year? What's the plan, guys? Because now you're back where Washington always is. So I don't know what the idea was. If I'm Washington, I'm still trading up and getting my guy. But I just don't think they're smart enough to do that because of Washington.
Fair point.
She ain't wrong. I mean, yeah, you're stuck in this no man's land. Like, it's kind of like my dynasty teams. I want to either be really good or really bad. I hate being mediocre because you can't move from mediocre. It's just like, oh, okay, you're a 5 and you're stuck at a 5, and I don't want to be with a 5, so this sucks. Anyway, Mac Jones is not laced in the 19. He should, but he's not going to. He's going in the top 10 for reasons beyond my comprehension. But I'm not an NFL scout, so it doesn't matter what I think. He's going to go in the top 10.
Maybe they get one of the quote unquote lower tiered quarterbacks sitting there still at 19, possibly that, is still really high profiled prospect.
Like Kellen Mond. I mean, but if they get a quarterback at 19, the thing is they're reaching a full round. Could they trade back into the first and maybe take a Mond or whatever the kid is from Texas A&M? I don't remember. Whatever. He knows his name. That kid, the other guy. Could they do that?
Mom knows his name.
If they could do that at the back of the first, sure. But more often that turns into Brock Osweiler as opposed to Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. Gross.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on. That's enough Washington talk.
Thank God.
So we're going to move on.
That was terrible. I just want to tell you, like, every part of me hates everything that just happened.
But now it's all going to be so much better. We ripped that Band-Aid off to start. All right. Well, yeah, from one perspective, that's true.
I'm going to just deal with Dallas now, so then I can yell at Steffi about how bad Daniel Jones is for like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you want to move on to Dallas? We can do Dallas.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Dallas.
WTFF does Dallas. That's the name of the episode.
Again, that's a very old person reference. No one's going to get that joke.
But I'm very excited for the 7 people who will tweet me about it later.
All right, so Dallas. Not many offseason moves for them. Their notable loss was their starting quarterback this last season in Andy Dalton, sometime starter, who moved on to, I guess, greener pastures. And then they brought in Jeremy Sprinkle, as we just talked about, from the Washington football team.
Interdivision transfer. I think that should be bigger news than what it's been so far. I mean, you just don't see those kind of star turns from one team in a competitive division to another. So
Yeah, maybe they won't draft Kyle Pitts because they got Jeremy Sprinkle. Like, who needs Kyle Pitts when you got Jeremy Sprinkle?
Well, and let's be honest, it's going to be Blake Jarwin's season again. I mean, he was primed for the breakout last year, and then, gosh darn, injury just deflated my whole balloon.
Gosh darn, I didn't know you were from Minnesota.
Wisconsin, I'm pretty close. I lived there for 7 years, so
Yes.
that's it comes out.
All the same. It's all fucking Canada. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, I did, but you go ahead.
That was very intentional. I mean, obviously you intended it. Yeah, but Andy Dalton, Dustin. Andy Dalton. I mean, we've talked about him before. I just want to get out ahead of this real quick and say I picked up Andy Dalton for a 3rd round in my Superflex league right before he got picked up here. And I've never been so excited to immediately turn around and trade somebody in my life. It was glorious.
What'd you get?
Just a 2nd round pick.
That's fine.
That's
That's
money in the bank.
That's profit.
Whoa.
Went from
What did you
3rd,
fleece
2nd round. I
up?
did
Come
nothing.
on.
I did nothing.
That is profit,
Nice.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually
Nothing wrong with that.
impressive.
That's all I have to say about Andy Dalton and probably the Cowboys. So go for it.
All right, so your humble bragging's done. All right, so Dak Prescott, horrific injury last year. Is he going to come back and be elite and be what we saw? You know, the pace. Obviously, he can't keep up with the pace that he had to start the season. But are we going to see fireworks like we did right out of the gate?
Yes. Yeah, yes, we will.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Their defense hasn't gotten substantially better. And that defense needed to get like significantly better because it was it was just a fucking trash fire. Like it was awful. I know they signed some cornerback. It doesn't matter. They're going to draft a cornerback at 12 or at 11, 10, wherever the fuck they draft.
10.
Before the Eagles. 10. Yeah, they'll snipe the Eagles and draft a cornerback. Their defense is still going to be awful. Fitz still is going to have, oh my God, Dak's still going to have CeeDee Lamb, Mark Cooper, Michael Gallup,
Jeremy Sprinkle,
Schultz,
as we just talked
Jeremy Sprinkle. Who's that other guy that was there last year? Their tight end?
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. No, the guy that was injured. We were just talking about it.
Blake Jarwin.
Jarwin.
Zeke.
And then Zeke the dump off too. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Pollard, too, can get worked into the mix.
Yeah, Dak is going to be pretty much stellar. I mean, no, he can't keep up last year's pace because he was on pace for 6,000 yards and only like 32 touchdowns, weirdly enough. No, but could he throw for 40 touchdowns? Yeah, that's well within his range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And when Dak is in the league, when Dak is healthy in the league, he is an elite quarterback, period. Like, it's like almost like that he's someone that I'm not going to have a discussion about. Like, it's like he's going to be good, right? There's nothing to worry about with Dak. As far as them maybe protecting him goes, yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a concern, but he's got the weapons. He is Dak Prescott, and there's no reason to be concerned about him moving forward.
Personally, I will not be satiated about his injuries until I see him go out on that field and do that hip dance that he does ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm not buying that he's fully recovered until I see
That's
that
fair.
on the field.
That's
That's
fair.
it. My line.
I think that hip dance is actually why he got injured, to be honest with you. It put a lot of strain. It put a lot of strain on the lower body that was unnecessary. Now, I'm not a physical therapist, but I'll lie to people and tell them that I am. So when you bend your hips like that unnecessarily, what you're doing is the ligament in your knee, it gets exasperated and it expands beyond its contention, and that's not good.
God, can
Wow,
we
you used a
sniff
lot of
that
big
out
words
and
there.
just
That was
use
great.
that in our injury analysis?
We're going to invite you back for an injury show, Shane, just so you can talk
I definitely
injuries.
think you should. I definitely think you should.
It'll be very useful.
I think I should supervise that show.
No. I think you should just be like, so how we'll do the injury shows. I'll just be like, oh yeah, Steffy Smalls approves all these following comments. It's fine.
Yeah. Just the vegetable dropout who wants to talk football.
So who would you rather have on the Dallas offense this year, CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper? Someone?
Do I say
Anyone?
it on three? 1, 2, 3.
CeeDee Lamb.
Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, guys, come on. There's no way around it.
Dustin is the lone Cooper guy. Now, I want to point out how hard I had to work to try and get him on the Amari Cooper train like 2 years ago, and then you weren't on the train. And now when I am starting to come off the train, you're getting on the train, and I feel like we're never at the same stop of the station.
Cooper's a hard man to love because he's so up and down, and consistency is a myth in fantasy football, but he takes that shit to the limit. He's literally like, I'm scoring 40 points this week. You know what I'm gonna do next week? 3. And you're like, dude, I can't trust you at all. That's not cool. But
he's gotten better. He's gotten better over the last.
He's got a little better. So it's more like, it's 40 and then 8. And you're like, well, it's not as bad as it used to be because it's not a donut. You know what I mean? But if you kick me in the balls lightly, you're still kicking me in the balls, right? So I'm just saying.
That was very fair.
Yeah. I love CD Lamb in Dynasty and Redraft. There's not a format that I wouldn't take him over Cooper in, to be honest with you.
Think about CD Lamb this year. He had weirdos throwing the ball. So him Dak Prescott back. And can you imagine the stealing there is phenomenal.
Straight up, and they weirdos. Ben DiNucci slid in Steph's DMs, and she sent me a screenshot of it, and I was like, "Well, he's a professional quarterback," and she's like, "He's a weirdo, though," and I was like, "Yeah."
First of all, I think that's exactly how that entire exchange went. Secondly, I do have to say, wasn't CD on a top 10 pay? I know it was only 5 games with Dak, but he was a top 10 guy when Dak was playing. I don't know where Cooper was in that, though. He couldn't have been too far off. I don't think.
He was hanging out in his 48 ratio, in the corner.
Everybody pretty much was on that pace when Dak was healthy. Zeke was on pace to be a running back 1. CD was on pace to be a wide receiver 1. Cooper was going to be a wide receiver 1. Any random fucking tight end on that offense was going to be a tight end 1. But that's what happens when your defense gives up 40 points a game and you're throwing the ball 50 times a game.
Fair.
But CD was on pace to do what Justin Jefferson ended up doing. And
I also hate the on pace thing. It's kind of my pet peeve. You're on pace. Okay, but you didn't get to continue the pace, so it kind of we can just erase it from the board. But you didn't do it. You were on pace, right. And that's so cool. But I want the proof that you can accomplish that.
I mean, yeah, but it's fantasy football, and we love nothing more than doing on pace and extrapolating things. Well, if you take this 3-quarter sample and extrapolate that over 15 seasons, he's a Hall of Famer. So, that's kind of our thing in fantasy football.
And I don't claim you guys. Is the thing.
I'm going to write an autobiography called On Pace. And it's going to be terrible, but it's
about the Bears.
It's going to be the worst book you've ever read 5 times straight. I guarantee it.
And twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
it'll be a short book.
That's true.
All right, Zeke. He was left for dead here. He's second contract, had a horrible season last year. Still finishing as an RB1. Do we see him being top 5?
I am working on not using the F word as much. So fudge no is my answer to this question. I do not see that happening at all. I think that with the talent that is there, I'm not buying into it. But I have very much been off this train. I hopped off the Zeke train. I'm not going back on. No one can convince me. I'm done. Sold them for King's ransom, and I'm very pleased with it.
Shane?
You're muted.
You're on. There you go.
So I'm sorry. I was just looking up CD Lamb's splits with Dak Prescott and without, just because on pace is fun. And he was averaging 17.1 points a game with Dak and 11.7 without, which is pretty funny because all those numbers are in each other. So that's a thing. Zeke. I hate Zeke. I hate everything about him. I hate him as a human being. Yay! I hate him as a running back because he's overrated, because he's been behind one of the greatest offensive lines in the league for several years, just like Emmitt Smith was overrated. I hate him because he's a cowboy. There's so many reasons to hate Zeke. His stupid beard, his stupid stomach tattoo, like he's a 15-year-old girl.
Belly. He's creepy little freaky Zeke, and I hate him.
The fact that he looks like an Ewok, and I think Ewoks are some of the worst things in the Star Wars universe, besides whatever the fuck Jar Jar Binks was. That said, I'm actually a little into Zeke this year because everybody's just like, no, that dude's dead. He's dead. I don't think he can be a top 6 running back. I think he'll give you top 6 weeks. I think he'll easily be a running back 1 again this year. And for his cost, I'm okay with buying him. Especially, I don't know redraft ADP, so I'm just going to lie and make it up. I think he's going in the 4th round in redraft ADP, which is just no. What's he got in the 2nd?
At this point in the offseason, all ADP is made up anyways. None of it really matters.
ADP's fake, but I think he's just getting taken so high for like his scenario for how he performed. I mean, like people are taking him before the 105 in my startup leagues. I'm sorry,
No.
I swear to God, I will show you multiple. He is
No. I believe you.
It's. Just,
I would not do that.
No, me either.
Y'all need to maybe not play the game if you don't know what the hell you're doing. That's insane.
Like, so I've seen offers where, and I had an offer yesterday, and I thought about it for a minute, where it was I give up CEH and the 207 in a 16-team league. So if you do math, I don't do math very well, but like that rate, probably be like the 30th player off the board, maybe. I don't know. I thought about it long and hard. Eventually, I didn't make the trade because I made another trade with CEH. But I've traded for Zeke for the first time in my life, and it hurts. But I think with experienced players, it's funny. I think he's dropping in value because he's at that age cliff for a running back, right? He's 25. He's got a ton of carries on him. He's an asshole, so we all want to root against him. You know what I mean? Like, he has that going for him. Like, no one wants him to do well. Like, even the people that own him, that roster him, are like, I kind of hope that he sucks because he's a terrible human being. So that drives his price down a little bit. So I think it cost, depending. Like, no, I'm not giving up the 105 in a super flex, but the 107, maybe.
Wow. And you said you hate Zeke. But holy shit, I could never give up the 107, I don't think, only because of what you mentioned, like the amount of carries that dude has at this point in his career terrifies the shit out of me. I don't want any running back at redraft costs. Like, I'm absolutely fine with that. Mid first round for sure. But in Dynasty, man, it just makes me too nervous. And I don't even love Pollard. I know a lot of people's thing is, well, Pollard's right there nipping at his heels. He's not. He's truly not. We've seen good flashes out of him, but he's more Tariq Cohen than anything, I think, at this point, which is fine. It's very fine. But, like, I'm just worried about those touches, man.
I mean, but I'm getting him in, like, the 16th round. Like, I'm not getting Pollard. Like, I'm not taking this guy, like, super high. But if I can get Pollard in, like, the 16th, 17th, 14th round, yeah, if he's hanging out there, sure, let me grab you. You have to know how to play these players, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would, if I was a win now position here, I would probably trade for Zeke for like the 107. But if I wasn't anywhere, close to contending, I think that's a little rich for me. So it just kind of depends on your team makeup.
Yeah, he's definitely got, look, I'm not buying him in leagues where I'm clearly a year away because I don't know what he's going to be in 2 years. But if I think my team can smash this year, yeah, I'll grab him. Well, I wouldn't grab him because he's a jerk off and he'd probably punch me in my nose for just like accidentally touching him because he's a jerk like that.
I hate that.
Zeke is a jerk like that. Yeah. New podcast title. We'll rotate through them.
All right. It'll just be a string. It'll just be one big long title.
I like it.
Lots of dashes.
Right. So now we can move into the Homer's corners here since we got through the grossness of the other two teams of the NFC East here. So, Shane, let's start with you and your sometimes Philadelphia Eagles here. So you brought in Joe Flacco, which is a strong move for your starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts here. And then you lost.
Sorry. Oh, my God. I'm going to mute my mic. I'm sorry.
And then you lost Deshaun Jackson, Richard Rodgers, and former Wisconsin Badger, Corey Clement.
Alshon Jeffrey is going to be cut to June 1st. Well, June
And
2nd.
Ertz is going to at some point be gone.
Maybe. At this point, it's looking like if they can't get a third rounder for him, they're just gonna let him stay on the roster another year.
Mm-hmm. So let's start with the quarterback position and Hurts. How do you feel about him? Is he the real deal? Is he going to stick around? Is this?
I don't know.
Because I don't know what to feel about him. I know he flashed. Everybody seems to love him because he's a runner and he has that solid running back floor. I just don't know how to feel about it. I just don't believe in him long term. Let's put it that way.
Are you going to say Konami code at some point? Because I feel like that needs to be referenced at least one every fucking podcast that I listen to about a Russian quarterback. Like, we get the point. Like, yes.
I don't want to use that word. Do you think we could just not use that word?
We actually say the whole thing. We do the up, down, left, right, start.
Yeah,
we just say it all.
Do that. You know what I mean? Represent, man. I'm so tired of hearing about the Konami code. Like, you're the first person that brought it up. Like, dude, Lord Reeves, yes, he invented that. Like, I don't even know, before I started paying fantasy. But, like, shut up. We get it now, okay? Russian quarterbacks. Unless it's Lord Reeves. I don't want to hear anybody saying fucking Konami code anymore because it's not their thing. Shut up. Anyway. I honestly have no idea what to think of him. I've said this before. I think he's either a top 8 quarterback next year or he's outside the top 30. He doesn't feel like a guy that's going to be in the middle, that nice meaty part that Steph likes. He's going to be like either like really good or really bad. I'm an Eagles homer, so I'm leaning towards be really good. He's got the rushing ability, which obviously I like. Anytime a quarterback, has that Konami code skill set, I like that they can use it. Your receivers can't get open. Well, fuck it. I'm going to take off and run. And I mean, he ran really well last year. And he also, his passing was not great, but he at least threw the deep ball a little bit. So I think that'll be fun with Rager. Truth is, I have literally no idea what this guy is. It was a 3.5 game sample. There was times that I watched and I'm like, wow, he's really good. And then there's other times when he airmailed the ball 15 yards over over his wide receiver's head. And I'm like, oh, well, this is why we got him in the second round, huh? So look, if you like to gamble, feel free to buy him, but he's going off the board as QB 12 in Dynasty. That's a pretty pricey gamble right now for someone that we just don't know.
And to agree with you, I think that it's like just super dramatic, like, right? Like, this is like a guy that people are placing a lot of value on that we barely saw play any football. Like, are you guys kidding me? And like the football he did play was like, yeah, again, like Shane said, like, oh, holy shit, that was great, or holy shit, that was bad. So I'm just not in a place where I'm going to start like taking him. He's going so high in these startups, and I just think that's crazy. It's a lot of value. It's a high risk. It's put in a player that maybe is not necessarily the franchise quarterback there. I wish him the best of luck. I like watching him play. I don't like the way he throws the ball. Something weird about his elbow. He's got like a jinky elbow. I don't know what the hell that is. Like, something about the way he throws the ball just makes me uncomfortable. But he's a mobile quarterback, and everyone loves that. Everyone loves their mobile quarterback. So, but he's not the mobile quarterback I'm going with. I'm risking my second. He's going as high as like early second round. Please, no, thank you. I'd rather just not and say I did.
Yeah, that's crazy to me that he's got second round ADP in startup drafts. Like, and look, I love a Konami code quarterback as much as the next guy, Konami code. But 3.5 games. Look, I understand you need to be bold sometimes. That's just, I'm not that bold. So I'm going to hold off. If someone wants to draft them that high, good luck to you. I wish you nothing but success in your future endeavors because I don't have the balls for it.
He feels like somebody you really have to pair with like the safest of safe vanilla quarterbacks. If you're going to draft him there, then like, well, you better be prepared to take Kirk Cousins then a few rounds later as your like backup guy if he shits the bed, because otherwise, yeah, you could be in real trouble.
Mm-hmm. And what fun is that? Like, I don't want to, like, who wants a boring vanilla quarterback? Like, I don't want some quarterback that I'm like, well, his upside 17 points and his floor is,
15.
12. Like, I don't want that. Like, get out of here. Like, Joe Flacco? No, I don't want Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, Drew Lock, any of these fucking guys. Like, no, thank you. I want to go all out on both my quarterbacks. I want my quarterbacks to be Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, The original Lamar
Mhm.
Jackson, even though people like to compare Hurts to Jackson.
No. So Miles Sanders, is he going to be an RB1 this season? Is he actually going to get used and stay healthy? I don't know.
Yes. Based off absolutely nothing. So Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for the Colts, right? That's really important. He didn't call plays, so there's that. I mean, if he gets JT's touches, great, but I don't know what to base that on. Now, I like Miles Sanders' upside. I just need him to get a few more touches than he did last year, hopefully in the passing game. Hopefully they're not giving those pass attempts to freaking Boston Scott, and they're not pulling Miles Sanders for – I like him too fine as a backup, but there's absolutely no reason he should ever see a target over Miles Sanders. Just like there's no reason that Corey Clement ever should have been on the field within the 10-yard line when Miles Sanders is on the fucking team. And, it just makes you want to punch things, and you can't because you keep punching things and you get in trouble, oddly enough. I think everyone's already faded him, right? I think you can get him fairly cheap now, right? Mm-hmm. With Josh Jacobs as a disappointment. So I'm okay with that. He's still really young. He entered the league fairly young. He's still got 2 or 3 more years of that elite production time, whatever you fucking call it, in him. He produced fairly well with Jalen Hurts last year in their 3.5 games.
He was on pace for something really.
He's on pace.
Let me say.
Yeah. You're betting on the talent, right? The talent was there. He was the number 1 running back coming out of his class. Apologies to Josh Jacobs. He hasn't done anything on the football field to show me that that's not what he is, except for he's not allowed to call plays because if he was, he'd probably touch the ball more often. He can't touch the ball less, right? I think. Hopefully.
I hope he secretly goes up and touches it right before they go into the huddle every time, just so he can get the feel for it again.
Right.
You are what you touch, probably.
Sure, absolutely.
Uh-oh.
18 opportunities. He had why you such a dick?
Why I can't get the shows of Shane because you bring out this side of me that
I didn't even.
It's your fault.
I was being all analytical, talking about football stuff, and you're talking about touching penises and stuff. I didn't bring that up. He only had 18 opportunities a game last year. That is fucking maddening and depressing. Like how he only had 4.3 targets last year a game. That is absolutely ridiculous. Like he's a guy that should see no less than 8 targets a game. His target share should be double what it was last year. He's that good of a receiver.
Considering they didn't have true receivers on the team, it is a little befuddling that, like, with your dearth of receiving options, you're like, no, this guy, you still don't get the ball, though.
Yeah. Makes no sense to me. I don't understand. But look, when you got Corey Clement on your team, you got to get him on the field. Apparently, I guess Boston Scott averaged 2.5 targets a game last year for some reason. Those are
leaving out Joho. What about Jordan Howard's amazing return to the field? That's going to cut down all of those red zone touches. Certainly.
No. He's going to hurt Miles Sanders in the same way that Gio Bernard being cut helps Joe Mixon.
That is a fair comparison, I think.
Yeah.
And is Rager going to be the number 1 this season? I mean, we all had high hopes for him, let's be honest. And he didn't really do a whole lot, which was super disappointing for the spots I have him in. Can he take that step forward? I know it seems like lately with the Eagles, that's where wide receivers go to die. And I don't know why that's the case. So is that going to turn around with Rager now this season?
Well, part of that is their coaching staff was a mess. They had a different wide receiver coach literally every year of Doug Peterson's regime. It was like the Spinal Tap drummer, since we're using old people references. Literally, like they just kept disappearing. It's like, wait, they just hired that guy. No, he's fired. Oh, okay. As they should have been, though. You know what I mean? Like you draft wide receivers high and they turn into garbage, you probably shouldn't keep your job. Although you should probably give these guys more than like one season. Anyway, whole new coaching staff. I think they'll use Reagor correctly this year. Last year, for whatever reason, when he was on the field, they seemed to only think he was only a deep threat when he's a more complete receiver than that. The fact that they trade it back to 12 pretty much tells you, yes, Reagor is our number one this year. Now, they can get a receiver in the second round, like Elijah Moore, maybe Rondell Moore, or Elijah, whatever his name is, Rondell Moore. Someone like that falls to the second round. I'd be a little concerned, but not real concerned, because there's enough targets on that team. You know what I mean? The other wide receivers on that team are just bad. There's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. There's Greg Ward. There's Travis Fulgham, who was the best wide receiver last year. Like, there's more than enough available targets for Reagor to be productive, and another receiver and a tight end and a running back, because basically none of those things were productive last year. So I wouldn't be too concerned. I felt better when Wentz was there, because at least when Wentz was there prior to last year, you thought you had a franchise quarterback. And with Hurts, we don't know. No, Hurts can't be worse than Wentz. He literally cannot be worse than Wentz. No one was worse than Wentz last year. So, you know, I still like Reagor a lot. And the thing about it is if you like him, you can get him for probably a mid-second, late second. So now's the time to buy. Prior to the draft, though, because prior to the draft, once the draft hits and people see that the Eagles didn't actually draft another wide receiver high, then they're going to go, oh, wait, so Reagor is the one there. Uh-oh.
All right. One last question. Yes or no before we move on to the Giants. Dallas Goedert, wheels up?
It's
great podcasting there.
It takes too long.
Down. Wheels so far down, knocking behind that. I will not participate in that behavior.
Steffi is not on board with Dallas Goedert.
No, I don't care. Please, not with that. No, I won't.
Here's the thing. And I know Wentz was awful last year, right? But Goddard had the chance to finally step up. And in the limited opportunities we've seen him without Zach Ertz, he hasn't shown me that he's anything. He's not Zach Ertz. As much as people want to undersell what Zach Ertz has done in his career, he's not as good as Zach Ertz, not from what I've seen. If he's going to do it, obviously it's going to be this year, because they're not going to get Kyle Pitts now, fucking jerk-offs. Look, at his cost, fine. I'm fine with it. He's one of those many tight ends that it's like, all right, sure. Yeah, if I can get him for a late second, sure, I'll take a shot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on, saving the best for last. The New York Giants. Step into the Homer's corner there, Steffi. Notable additions. We got the big name, Kenny Golladay, Kyle Rudolph, which we've already touched on a bit here, John Ross, and Mike Glennon, big backup quarterback there. And then your losses, a bunch of who's who of
who's that?
Good players. Colt McCoy, Golden Tate, Deion Lewis, Alfred Morris, Wayne Gallman.
Zeitler,
a bunch of
Tomlinson. There's some big names.
Can I just say, Alfred Morris,
relevant players.
Alfred Morris has been on 3 teams in the NFC East at this point in his career. The only team he hasn't been on this far is the Eagles, so he has to make the round onto the Eagles before he wraps up his career. That's all I want to say.
I'm not saying he's slutty. I'm just going to say he enjoys the company. Yeah, he enjoys the company of many men.
He's like Fitz. Like Fitz likes to, he wants to test all the waters.
Right.
I hate that for him a little bit. It's fine.
All right. So Kenny Golladay, big splash in free agency. How do you feel about him? And is he a good fit for the team? And do you see him? Where do you see him finishing? Let's put it that way.
My internet is messy. You guys are chopping out, but I'm guessing you asked me how Golladay is for the team along those lines in fantasy, right? Is that where we're at? Somewhere along those lines? Okay, cool. So Golladay is great for the team. He is going to be a good fantasy player. He has the potential to be great. I think that he is going to get a lot of the targets. I think he's someone that gives the potential for a deep ball threat. He is something that has been lacking on this team since OBJ was there. But something to watch out for is don't be surprised if the New York Giants take one of those top guys in the draft. It's very, very possible that they take another wide receiver. It's not unlikely. Like, it would not shock me at all. My problem with Galladay, and I picked him up in a bunch of leagues, and you have to know when to play him, what like who he's going against, what the secondaries look like. But I mean, they're splitting a lot of targets over there now. So I imagine that my hope is that John Ross kind of kicks Slayton out of his role. I'm ready for Slayton to get out of New York. I don't really care. Like, I'm done. You've had enough chances, like 52.1% completion rate, losing like 16 points a season. Please, like, just go somewhere else. I'm over you. I don't care. Go to the Eagles, go to the Cowboys. I don't give a shit where you go. So I think that he still is going to have to, fight for targets there. Because now you still have Jason Garrett, who's a pain in my ASS, for lack of a better term. Now he has his Rudolph, who is his Witten. So you're going to give Rudolph balls. Ingram is still, unfortunately, going to get balls. It's better for Ingram. People that do have Ingram, you're going to see probably more points out of him because he does better when there's more players that are productive on the field. And that is by the numbers. He just does better. When he doesn't have to be the main targeted guy. So my issue is now we've got Rudolph, we've got Sterling Shepard, who is coming off of one of his best years. We've got Ross, we've got Galladay, we've got, Ingram. And then if you add another guy in, he's not really a wide receiver one, is he? So I can be realistic with it.
How many targets is Saquon getting coming back?
Saquon alone, and so it doesn't look pretty because of the target share. So it kind of depends on how productive they can be on offense. So the biggest thing to look out for here is, one, what are they doing with that first pick? Two, are they actually addressing the offensive line, or are they leaving it as is? So I'm less concerned about Daniel Jones and whatever else everyone wants to talk about. The bigger concerns are, do they take another wide receiver on? Because that's an issue. Because you got a young guy in there that can produce like a wide receiver one. Guess what? Galladay is he's just 1B, and then you got 1A there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the offense, with the Giants. I think they can be a very productive offense. He is not my favorite person on that offense from a fantasy perspective. As a fan perspective, hell yeah, Galladay, of course I'm pumped. Like, I'm not going to be pissed. I'm happy. But I definitely think that there are some concerns from a fantasy perspective because he has a lot of targets to split, especially with Saquon back.
I do like more of what he's doing for the quarterback. I know you said you didn't really want to talk about Daniel Jones much, but like that is really what. Yeah, I mean, that is who this is helping the most. Like, not only that, of course, he's getting back Saquon healthy. Hopefully, presumably, he's going to be great. And he's getting a little bit of extra firepower in there. I'm not saying John Ross is a game changer. I think we would have seen that if he is, but every little bit helps. So Daniel Jones now turns into, like, I'm pretty psyched to get him as a late round quarterback at this point, just to see, because we don't know. You can't get worse. And so what the floor is with him, but he's now like a top late round quarterback for me.
Is the floor lava?
It could be.
No, but he also, listen, I'm realistic, and I tweeted the other day, what is the worst? Like, people are selling Daniel Jones for like, literally, I think my tweet was $1 and like a half piece, like, of chewed gum. Like, I mean, like, you're not asking, but his ceiling's very high. I mean, he had 7 out of the 13 games that he played healthy that he scored over 16.5 points. And like, more than half of those were over 22 points. Like, you're not looking at a guy that isn't mobile and can't produce. So you give him weapons and you put him in the situation to do better. I mean, like, he lost a lot of those games because of Ingram and because of Slayton. It was not because of the turnovers. It's not the scenario. And it's, this is make or break for Daniel Jones, but I'm getting Daniel Jones in the 16th round. Give me a break. Like, that's great, because if he ends up, his ceiling is much higher than most of these guys are sitting on this bench of guys that need to prove themselves. Like, if he does perform and they do pull it together, like, you're looking at 24 plus points every single week, like, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think the big thing people forget about is that Saquon has been injured basically the last 2 seasons, and he is a game changer when he is on the field. I mean, whether it's in the receiving game or running, I mean, he helps that offense so much, and it's only going to help Daniel Jones too. So I think people are, like I said, forgetting about that, and it's just something to keep in mind that, like you said, the ceiling can be pretty high for him, and at his cost, I mean, you can trade for him for what, like a late second, probably?
Not even. People are giving him away. I'm literally in these startups. I literally just got him and some of them I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'm just like playing for, like, I'm getting him as my like second quarterback in like the 15th round. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's a good
You're like, here's Carlos Hyde. Can I have Daniel Jones? And they're like, fine, sure. Let's do it. Because as Shane said, they perceive the floor to be lava, which is fair. Like, the floor is very low too. But if the ceiling is that high, then I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Saquon, speaking of him, he's been injured the last couple seasons. And here on the show, we hate to use the term injury prone because, I don't know, we just don't believe in it. So it is concerning, though, that he's had a couple major injuries the last couple seasons here. Is this the season he's finally healthy and he's going to play a full season and we're going to get the Saquon we all expect to see?
Yes, it is. So I wish that everyone got to see. So I keep my Giants commentary behind my Patreon because I don't like Giants Nation. I hate Giants Twitter. I wish I was never a part of it. I think they're all lunatics. So I keep that stuff behind the wall just so that it's people. And I don't have a platform anymore, unfortunately, to write. That was part of my thing when I went on FTN. That was off the writing gig. I don't have my injury report anymore with fancy intervention. So Saquon is in the best position to have his career high year without a doubt. I mean, to put it in like the simplest terms, he did a prehab. I can't think of that many guys that have done a prehab. His MCL completely healed entirely on its own. He's looking at Adrian Peterson numbers, in my opinion. So his rehab is most closely compared to Adrian Peterson 2012. I mean, there's no reason for this guy to not do well. His MCL didn't get touched during the surgery. He did not have a meniscectomy, which is a huge highlight and people don't realize. Like, there is no reason for Saquon to not come back and do phenomenal. And if anyone's interested, I will screenshot, just DM me. I'll screenshot and send you my article on it. And I won't go too into it because I don't get to talk about injuries anymore. So I'm going to go on a tangent, but Saquon's in a very, very good position. And, you know, everyone wants to cry about signing Booker for $1 million, like whatever it is, $1 billion, blah, 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 whatever. That's fine. I don't care. Just protect Saquon. Like, we need him on the field. So if you want to pay someone $1 jillion to keep the guy's longevity, do it.
Turn him into a 65% share running back instead of forcing an 80% share to get him injured again, basically. Like,
it's not how it works. And, you know, it's not, so the knee doesn't connect to the ankle. I mean, he still played 13 games his second season. He still hit numbers that there's running backs that will never touch those numbers. So, you know, there's no reason to be concerned with his injuries. I think that Saquon's also an elite athlete, and that's a huge part of it. And I think that that's something that Adrian Peterson showed through his injury recovery, through his rehab. And Saquon's in a better position physically from a medical standpoint, looking at his surgery to perform at a very elite level. There's no reason.
Well, that makes me happy for all my Saquon shares. Yeah, so thank you. Okay. Anything else, folks? I don't have any more questions on my show sheet. So anyone else? Final thoughts?
That's it. I mean, I actually want to ask Shane, what do you think the Eagles' record is going to be?
Again, I have a feeling it's either going to be something like 11-5 or 4-12. Yeah, I know. I saw that. It's going to be one of two things. I mean, they were so bad last year, dysfunctional. Well, I mean, their wide receivers aren't bad.
11-5 is very lofty goal there, my friend.
Look, if you don't dream big, then don't dream at all.
No, I'm asking you for realistic. I'm asking you to be realistic.
I can't be. I mean, here's a problem. You know, I'm an Eagles fan, and I can't be realistic. Like I always have that tint of, well, if everything goes well, like that's why no one ever goes, well, I think there'll be a 7-9.
No,
I
I'm
think there'll be an
realistic
8-8
with my
team.
team.
Well, I can't do that. So me, it's either they're going to be 11-5, or wait, there's 17 games now. Hold on,
That's true.
11-6,
I didn't want to.
or 4-13. Jesus Christ, that sounds awful. Yeah, that's kind of where I see it, because either Jalen Hurts is going to be really good or he's going to be really bad, and that's basically how their season's going to go.
Can I do one quick, and I'll ask you both to say it at the same time if you don't mind. In redraft, based on perceived ADP, which again is basically faked, at this point, I want to ask, is it Jalen Hurts or Daniel Jones? Are you waiting to get Daniel Jones, or are you taking Jalen Hurts early? On the count of 3.
Where's Hurts ADP?
I don't know. Let's assume it's like top Hurts. 4 rounds.
I'm not touching Hurts with a.
And Daniel Jones, you don't even have to draft.
Yeah, because he's super. So are you on the Daniel Jones train then by default, Shane? Is that what we're talking about?
Not touching Hurts. I don't care. I don't have a single share, and I don't care. I might take him in redraft like late, but like I'm not. Yeah, no.
Okay. All right.
I haven't seen enough. I watch enough film of Daniel Jones. I watch enough of the last 2 games are enough for me with the moves that they've made, with the commitment by Joe Judge to know that Daniel Jones has no excuse to do phenomenal this year. And if he sucks, then I was wrong. Twitter's going to kill me, and it's not a big deal. I'll get over it. Like, that's fine, but I'm going to believe in what I've watched and what I've seen and the torture I've endured for years.
Speaking of torture, Shane, are you willing to concede that it might be Daniel Jones you'd be drafting?
Based off cost, yeah. I mean, because look, I can draft another skill position player in the 4th round and then go get Daniel Jones after the draft.
Sure.
Yeah. And like Steph said, I mean, he's got Kenny Galladay, he's got Saquon Barkley coming back, he's got Sterling Shepard actually playing slot receiver again, as he should. Evan Ingram is actually phenomenal. He can't drop everything in sight like he did last year. That's not going to happen again, hopefully. And they're going to get Jalen Waddle in the first too, so he's going to have a ton of weapons. So yeah. If he can't succeed, he sucks.
Yeah, he sucks ass. Like, I'm fine with that, and I will admit it. Like, this is it for him. But this is it for a lot of like quarterbacks, right? Wentz, Darnold, Hurts. Like, everyone's got to prove themselves this year.
Yeah.
We're on a bench. You're either getting kicked to QB2 to be a startup forever, or you're gonna do like,
Yeah.
Dustin, we found common ground to end this episode. And I think
I know it's very nice.
It was. If you think about it, Shane just doesn't want to fight with me.
No, I mean, look, at cost. Look, who's going to have the better season? Jalen Hurts. Is Daniel Jones probably going to suck? Yes, because that's what he's done most of his career. But when
we're ending on not as
we were this close.
When ADP is added in, well, look, I'm not as stupid as I look. I have to at least concede that there's more risk baked into that cost for Jalen Hurts than there is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is free. Like, if I get a free bagel and it tastes like shit, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it was free. Like, I didn't think
it out.
Well, I did.
Yeah. You can pick up another bagel off of waivers the next week. It's fine.
You put hypodermic needles in these bagels. Okay, so that's why they're free. Okay. But you know what I mean? It was free. And just toss it, whatever. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, if I'm drafting him in the 4th, 3rd round of a startup draft or in a redraft, whatever, that's going to hurt my soul and that's going to hurt my team badly if he doesn't perform.
Right on.
All right, perfect spot to end it. So before we sign off here, I want you each to let us all know where we can find you, what you do, where you're at, et cetera, et cetera. Flaunt yourself, basically, is what we're saying. So, Steph, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I'm with FTN Network now. Just got my own show with FTN Bets. Small talk with me, Steffy Smalls. I'm basically either polluting your timeline, and if I'm not, then you can follow me at Steffy Smalls with 3 L's. And usually everything that I'm doing is on there. I'm all over the place.
All right. Shane?
There we go. I'm on mute. Yeah, Matt Shane is the worst. It's a really mean handle someone gave to me. I don't even remember.
You can change that anytime that you want, right?
Yeah, it's really easy.
Did you lose your Twitter password? Are you not?
A few times? Look, at Shane is the worst on the Twitters, write for DLF, do a YouTube show for DLF, Manic and Chill, Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. I do a live stream on Tuesdays. We don't actually have a name yet, so we just call it Turn Up Tuesday or some shit like that in about 13 minutes. That's it. I don't really do much. I write. I like writing. And I'm available for podcasts and bar mitzvahs.
Ooh, good to know.
True triple threat. I like it.
All right, Jake, where can folks find you out there?
I'm Jake Trowbridge. It's just my name on Twitter.
And you can find the podcast at Drinking Fantasy, and you can find me at FF Dusty Dog. And until next week, folks, keep drinking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.
Check us out.
Social media.
TFF, that is the name of our show.